You're definitely a star seed. Your birth date kind of indicated that, and just when I connected with your energy is really bright. You have like a and when I see this kind of bright aura, it usually indicates a particular star system where a person's from. And with you, I definitely got Pleiades. Do you know much about the Pleiades or have heard of it before? Okay.
No, ma'am.
It's interesting because you and Jewel are from different star systems, but you two are you're from the same overall soul family. When I was checking in on your star system of origin, I was trying to get the particular star because the Pleiades is actually a cluster of stars. I think that it contains about 10 stars, and it's in the constellation of Taurus, which doesn't really have much to do with your astrological sign. It's just the location where it's from, okay? Because I know you're a Scorpio. So I was trying to see which star system where you were from, and I got Taygeta, okay, which Taygeta is one of the two major stars in the in the Pleiades cluster. Let me backtrack a little bit and explain what the Pleiades is about, and maybe that'll help kind of fill in some of the gaps. Because, when I first heard the term Pleiades, this was like, I don't know, maybe about 7 years ago. It just didn't register because I didn't know much about it. So I always like to give a little bit of galactic history so people realize the significance of the star system. Okay, Pleiades was a very important star system throughout, I would say, the history of this planet. They had a lot of influence on Earth, but even beyond that, this is probably going to go against what you've heard, like say in Sunday school, or because you were brought up in Alabama, it sounds like. So you probably went through some church, and they probably told you certain things about how things started. The work that I've done with the Akashic records, our history started long before Earth was even a planet. The humanoid races were actually developed millions of years ago in a constellation called Lyra. Okay, so when Source started splitting itself off, and they were splitting themselves off into these oversoul groups, there was a particular oversoul group called the Elohim, which was the co-creators. They created the humanoid races in the constellation of Lyra, and within the star of Vega, which is the main star of Lyra. Okay, it was the biggest star anyway. There was, I guess, just like everything else that happens here in this galaxy, there's always this struggle between the light and the dark. Okay, and that's been an ongoing thing. There's always been this, separation of duality. Lyra was actually located very close to another constellation called Draco. Draco, as you know, meaning the dragon or the serpent. These were the home of the reptilian races. So the reptilians came from a different universe. They kind of got deposited in Draco. They had this, I guess, more of a service to self mentality. And they decided they didn't want to be coexisting with any other star races. They wanted to conquer them. So they attacked Lyra Vega, and it was pretty cataclysmic. I mean, many of these beings lost their lives. The few that managed to escape did escape to other star systems because they had, I think, enough technology at the time. They had starships, so they managed to escape to other star systems. Well, the Lyran survivors the majority of them ended up in the Pleiades. The Pleiadians were actually descendants of Lyran refugees. So this kind of, I think, might fill in a little bit of maybe it might be a theme that you might see even in your life today, because even though the Pleiadians didn't physically have those lives in Lyra, they did carry within their genetics, some of the trauma signatures that occurred from Lyra. And this is kind of, I think, what started the Pleiadian race, okay? So the Pleiadians, I think they looked human. They were probably taller and better looking. And you do have, I would say, very Pleiadian features. If I was to show you a picture of a Pleiadian man, you would say, "Oh yeah, that could look like that could be my cousin," or But they look pretty much human. They just were taller, maybe better looking, very physically well built. The Pleiadians, when they were developing their new home in the Pleiades star systems, and like I said, there were several stars, not just one or two, but they decided that they wanted to create a whole new identity for themselves. They didn't want to be associated with Lyra anymore because I think it was too painful. So they created, new civilizations in these new star systems. And each of these star systems have very specific specialties. So there's Taygeta, Alcyon, Merope, Pleione, Atlas, Sterope, Electra, Maya. So there's, all these different stars that are with part of this cluster. This is a fairly large asterism, okay? So the Pleiades is about 8 light years across. It's huge, okay? Big system. You were from Taygeta. Taygeta was one of the 2 major stars in the Pleiades system, okay? So Alcyon being the other one. So Taygeta was kind of the seat of Pleiadian government, and kind of like the central point of the Pleiadian civilization, along with Alcyon. I think more people know about Alcyon than Taygeta, but they were both equally important. So this kind of tells me a little bit about maybe some personality qualities or gifts that you have. So the Taygetans tended to be more technologically oriented. So these were people that I think had a pretty good sense of technology, and they probably exhibited more divine masculine qualities. What do you do for a living nowadays? I'm just curious.
I've done a bunch of different things. I'm currently I'm a film producer. I'm a library.
Okay.
It's more my creative side, but how I got into that was more private equity, investment banking, finance.
Oh wow! So you did the whole gamut. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's it. It all led me to my passion, if that makes sense.
Right.
That's it. That field is a very universal career. I mean, it can take you anywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons why I think it drew to me so much originally.
Uh-huh. So it's interesting because, when I look at Taygeta, it's kind of like the Taygetan Pleiadians tended to be very, I would say, administratively oriented to a certain extent. So it's interesting that you were in banking for a while and kind of like these more administrative, businessy kind of, career, and then it was kind of like, but really that's not a good match for Pleiadians. Pleiadians love to be creative. So now you're doing something that's combining kind of like some technology with creativity, which is perfect. It's perfect for you. Okay. So in a lot of ways, you probably have maybe had some lives in Alcyon too, because Alcyon was more the seat of Pleiadian creativity. I don't see like a Lyran beginning with you, so I'm not seeing that you had lifetimes in Lyra or Vega. I think when you first, as a soul, decided to start having physical incarnations, you had physical incarnations in the Pleiades. But probably some of your genetic line came from Lyra, obviously. So you carry some of those trauma signatures, which I think ended up getting you in trouble, So, and we'll talk about that. Okay, I think when I'm looking in the records, I think what you described is exactly how it was. You were like trying different things. But I think you always came back to the creativity because I think that's your first love. But it has to be like on a creative level of combining, some technology in it, so
Sure.
Yeah. So with the film producing, do you work a lot with camera equipment, or are you doing a lot of editing, or
very little physical production as of now. I'm the CEO of a production company. We own a pretty large library of IP.
Oh, okay.
But I basically kind of applied a lot of my business experience in that acquisition to get into that position.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But getting into that position allows me to truly be creative and dive into all these different areas that I've always wanted to.
Oh, very cool.
So,
okay.
A little premature now, but I mean, call it I'm 5 feet from the finish line.
Oh yeah, no, it sounds like you've done very well for yourself. I think in consequent lifetimes, what I've seen with you, because I'm kind of looking kind of forward now. You had lifetimes where you worked for the light, the lightest of the light. You were working for the Galactic Federation. You were working, on board starships, and then I'm seeing other lifetimes where I think you kind of got to this point where the Pleiadians, this was the downfall of the Pleiadian civilization. They were trying to separate themselves so much from the Lyra experience or the Lyra trauma that they became totally focused on positivity. Like everything was all love and light. Couldn't think about anything negative. Can't, oh my gosh, can't look at the shadow self. So the Pleiadians got so one-sided that I think there were certain Pleiadians that decided that they were rebelling against, they wanted to rebel against all the love and light, culture that they had. So I'm seeing, and it's interesting because you are an indigo. I'm just looking at your birth year. So you were born, you're second wave, so you were born, in the 70s and 80s. So you have kind of a rebellious streak in you, you're...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm more go with the flow these days than I've ever been in my life. Usually if there's a herd heading this way, I'm the first person to make a step in the opposite direction by total instinct.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're kind of like a devil's advocate sometimes, so... Which probably serves you well in your current career, because you have to think outside the box a lot. So, yeah, I like connecting with you because you really get the concepts of what I'm talking about real easily.
Makes a lot of sense and tons of sense what you're saying. Just with different, I know for sure. As soon as you said going on both sides, light and dark, I know I'm light, but also know I have a side to me through previous life. There's been times that I've had flashbacks of being on a battlefield, and even some of my colleagues that I'm even in movies with now or working with that have a very similar connection. I can tell they kind of have that same energy. There'll be times I'll wake up 2 or 3 days later and I'm sore in places, like I went somewhere and was doing something.
Interesting. We'll have to explore that.
Yeah. That was interesting.
You might be doing some astro travel to maybe some alternate timelines, sounds like.
I zone out a lot.
Yeah. What I'm seeing is I think in consequent lifetimes, I think what happened was somebody that was really close to you got killed.
Yes. My mother, when I was very young.
Okay. But in this lifetime, in the Pleiades, it was your sister.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're kind of like in this lifetime, you repeated. I think it was almost like you were trying to maybe re-experience that loss so that you can deal with it and resolve it in this lifetime. Okay. But because in that lifetime, it was, I think, the first series of events that ended up having you going to the dark side. Okay. I think she was, I think she might have been your mom in this life. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you two are kind of like you have a family soul connection. So, but she was your sister in that lifetime. In this lifetime, she was your mom. You were on some sort of Galactic Federation mission, and I'm trying to see where you guys were at. I think you were, and she was also a member of the same starship you were assigned to. And you had a very close, family relationship. It was a very, very good relationship. And you two, I think, were like two peas in a pod. I mean, it was just very very close relationship, happy relationship. But I'm seeing that you guys went off on a mission, and I think it was to some sort of outlier star system in Orion. Something happened. Okay, yeah. Do you know about Orion?
I know all about it.
Okay, you know about Orion.
I didn't say I know all about it, but I'm familiar.
You're familiar with Orion? Yeah, it's an interesting place. I don't know if it was an accident or And I think it was something that was it was preventable, but your sister, I think something blew up and your sister got caught in it. You felt like it was something that should have never happened. It was totally preventable. And you got very, very, very angry and bitter about it. Okay.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Now, when your mom passed in this lifetime, was it when you were younger, or was it?
Yes, I was very young. I was 4.
Mm-hmm.
I was 4. So more of a ripple effect there, I guess, more than anything else.
Right.
I mean, I have very vivid memories from even birth till that evening. But
Mm-hmm.
I was raised by my grandparents from that point moving forward, which were amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Her parents.
Hmm.
But yeah, 4.
So I kind of wonder if you had a contract with your mom or with your, this, soul that was your mom, and maybe she chose to pass on so that you can finally tie up those karmic ties to her dying from the previous life, so that you can move on in this life and kind of finally break free of those karmic ties that kind of got you sucked into working for the dark. Okay, because it sounded like even though you were young, even you've had your grandparents that were able to raise you, and it sounded like you had a pretty good upbringing with them. So
right.
Yeah.
2 angels, basically. Very old fashioned, old traditions.
Yeah.
Very conservative, all about integrity, and very well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So I think maybe she did that so that you two can, close the karmic loop.
Okay.
And so that you can move forward and do what you were supposed to come here to do. Okay. But what I saw what happened in that past life was that you got so angry that you renounced the light. Okay. So this is called spiritual suicide, when you separate yourself from the light. You decided that you were going to work for the dark, so you became what we call a rogue Pleiadian. So you were a bad boy after that.
I'm not. It's funny. It's funny because I think about. I mean, even I've done some photo shoots throughout the years. I could send you. That's so interesting. You say rogue.
Uh-huh.
I did a photo shoot right after a very emotional breakup. One of the probably the most emotional ones I've ever had in my life for whatever reason. And that was the title of the shoot was I Am Rogue.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'll send you that. And it's all black and white and very
yeah, I'd love to see that. Oh my God.
Yeah,
no, but that's what you were like rogue at that point.
Oh no, I totally see. I can very much relate to that now. I mean, I do. I know my breaking points, and it's I'm one of those types of individuals that if anybody hurts anything that I very much care about, there's definitely another guy that just clicks.
Oh yeah, very
protective mode, just super cliquish. So
and you're a Scorpio, so you're very protective and very loyal. And so if something, somebody close to you gets hurt, you're just like, oh, it's like, the gates of hell opens, and
it's almost scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit uncontrollable.
But I think that's what makes you an interesting person. You're not, I mean, I think because of your past lifetimes where you were, I think, running around with the space pirates from Orion, you were an interesting character. I think it what makes you more of a, I think it makes you more of a well-rounded individual, because
I like going on sides. I can definitely sense that I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I remember there was something, and of course I grew up in a very religious environment, but I'm a very open-minded, very much a free spirit as an adult. Not really a big traditional guy as far as religion. Truthfully, even though I was raised in it, of course, it just never really sang to me that way.
Yeah, exactly.
But I never forget there was this one gentleman that he had a band called Desert Rain. His name was, I forgot Bill's last name, but he was a very, very sweet man, very nice man, very inspiring man. And I loved the name of his band. It was called Desert Rain because he loved to go out in the desert and take souls and go to the dark side and that kind of thing. So that always pulled at me for some reason big time. I felt the level of curiosity there and also maybe an innate wanting to help, or it was definitely the combination of both both sides of the spectrum. I think I don't know about previous lives, but I can say in this life that both of those elements for sure were there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you were probably playing out both elements. You were brought up in this very religious upbringing, but at the same time, you had your rogue, moments, so
For sure.
yeah.
For sure.
But I think that's what makes you a really interesting character. Otherwise, you would just be very one-sided. And I think that's why, some of these Pleiadians really rebelled against all the love and light that was in the culture, because it kind of stunted their, overall spiritual development. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
Yeah. A big part of your journey was going into the depths of the dark and then working your way out of it. Okay. I think this started maybe not during your rogue period, but during your previous period when the sister was still alive. You did meet some very interesting characters. One was this beautiful Andromedan princess. You two, I kind of looked at this before, but you two always kind of like you would cross paths.
Circle. Yeah.
But
I could totally just the second we met.
Yeah, and it was like you wanted to get together, but there was always something that was preventing it. What was preventing it, I think, in a way, was I think you felt that because your sister passed, that if you loved something, it would get destroyed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's definitely a deep-rooted fear there.
Yeah.
And
so
I can even look at my own life of previous scenarios to where that it was a very uneasy feeling. It was a very vulnerable place for me to be because, matter of fact, I probably even pushed things away because I didn't want to even take the chance on something getting taken away from me out of my control.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think this was due to your life in the Pleiades, where you had this really close relationship with your sister, and then she tragically died, and you felt like you were running this conscious control program. Okay.
I can totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you felt like I got to have everything in control, because if I just love something and I just let go, it's going to get taken away from me. Okay.
Yeah.
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 So I think maybe that was, maybe what kind of kept you and Jewel from getting together in the beginning. I mean, I don't know if you guys are together now, but so you're like, oh my God, is that girl that I've known from all these.
Totally. I'm like, hello again. Hello.
Hello. She's got to be one of the most beautiful and most, I don't know, just very unique and special souls. There's something about her energy just sparkles. I mean, it's like she touches something and it just becomes magical.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And so I'm just so happy that you two are still together. Cause,
yeah.
Well,
it's funny. I've been how long have we known each other, me and her? I guess I don't know, a little over, in this life, I guess a little over a year we've been in contact, and this is the second time we've actually seen each other physically.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but I remember the first time I saw her, and I've kind of been a little cat and mouse a little bit, truthfully, just because it was a very overwhelming energy.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I saw that in the records. I think you were just like, oh my God, it's that girl, the girl.
Yeah.
And you were just like, what do I do with this, and
how do I put this? How do I deal with this? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Because you probably, I mean, at least here on this lifetime, you haven't met anybody like her, and or with that kind of soul connection, at least. So I'm just happy that you guys are at least, trying to meet up. I know you live very far from each other because she's in Maui and you're here.
At the moment.
At the moment, yeah. I don't know. I just see you guys have this really deep soul connections. It's transcended lifetimes, okay? And so the contract in this lifetime that you two had was you two were supposed to finally get together and work out the issues from the past lives that kept you from getting together, okay? And so I'm
That
really
sounds like a
happy
plan.
that you're transcending your fear and that you're working past it. And so, yeah, she was actually from Andromeda. And Andromedans had, I would say, a very different culture from the Pleiadians. They were very technologically advanced, but highly, highly spiritual. When you think about Andromeda, they're just like so beyond, anything that we can possibly imagine, that they're just so high vibrational, so evolved. And probably Jewel, out of you and Jewel, she's the much older soul. Okay.
Oh, I definitely sense that. Yeah,
Yeah,
much wiser.
she's much more ancient than you are, but I mean, you're an old soul, don't get me wrong, but she's really, really ancient. Her energy, I think, came from the Andromeda galaxy. So that all that sparkly energy is actually it's the sparkle from the Andromeda galaxy. So when you first met her in the Pleiades, you were just like, "Oh my God, what's this?" I mean,
What is this?
yeah, what's this? It's like, I mean, she wasn't just a woman; she was just very otherworldly, and I mean, and I think she's still kind
She
of
has
like
the
that.
yeah. There's certain. I was telling her there's certain angles because obviously, I love photography and
Yeah,
capturing moments in time. Really, more than
right,
anything, more than photography.
right.
And there's certain angles of her. I'm like, you are just not from here. You're just not from here.
No, she is not.
Yeah, I'm like, you're just not from here.
But no, that's how she is, and so I think when you first met her, long, long time ago, you were just like, oh my gosh, what's this? I mean,
Sure.
yeah, it's just, but I think you felt this fascination for her, just like, but because of protocol and because, she was from Andromeda and you were, connected with the Pleiades, and, it was like you two, your paths would always cross, but you couldn't really consummate the relationship. It was just kind of like, so it's kind of like this unrequited love, that you couldn't really, so you're always like, I think carrying this torch for her, but you couldn't
That's
quite.
beautiful. I'm about to start writing a love story. I swear.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
like
I think maybe you should take some of this and create like a movie out of it or something,
no, no, really, that's exactly where my head's at right now. Like, it's funny. I don't really write. I'm very much a visual person. I have a lot of,
Right.
I hold a lot in. But I started writing a couple of days ago, and that's actually what I started.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So this lines right up.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like I think your soul's trying to remember things about you, and this is kind of
Sure.
common before people have Akashic readings, where their higher self starts giving them like some heavy hints, like, oh,
Okay.
this is what you're supposed to remember, So I think, but you were doing it through a creative outlet, where,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, so where you were just thinking of, okay, I'm just trying to remember things
Well,
about
I would get
myself. Yeah.
these things. Well, I would say that it's not even really like a conscious. I'm thinking about something. It would be something more would come to me, and I'd be like, I got to write that down. I got to
Yeah.
write that down. It was That's literally what started happening a couple of days ago.
And a lot of times it isn't conscious. A lot of times it's kind of like you get that, kind of intuitive sense like, oh, I gotta jot this down, or I gotta remember this, or so I think your higher self was giving you hints, like, oh, pay attention because this is going to come up again. So
Cycling, if you don't.
so I think it's just kind of giving you little pieces of your story, that like this is who you are. This is, things that these are the, people that or beings that you've made, very important soul contracts with, like your mom, for instance, and your grandparents and Jewel, so your grandparents are kind of interesting. I kind of want to hone in on their energy a little bit because I see a couple of ancient Atlantean souls. Okay, so they originated from Earth, but I think you actually had a connection with them from Atlantis. Okay,
Oh,
and I think your mom slash sister, or had a connection with them from Atlantis as well. So it was like all four of you had this contract. Okay, and I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit with Atlantis,
no, that's
but
okay.
a lot of us, when we were, I think, as starseeds, decided to incarnate here on Earth, a lot of us either started in Atlantis or Lemuria. So she didn't even start off in the same place you did. You started off in Atlantis, okay? Mother Goddess consciousness, you're more like Father God consciousness, okay? So I think that's what you two were trying to represent. But in Atlantis, you had your connection. I think you got reacquainted with, the soul that was your sister, that was not your mom in this life, and with your grandparents who were, and I'm trying to see what was the dynamic. Your mom was actually your daughter. Okay, it was kind of interesting. You guys, and this is common with souls. Sometimes you play different roles. And I think the grandparents were actually your parents in that lifetime, which is interesting because they were kind of like your parents in this lifetime,
I took on their last name.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of rebelled against them because they were really, really strict, okay? And I think in this lifetime they were really, really strict with you, okay? But
yeah, very, 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 very protective.
Yeah. So, but I think in that lifetime in Atlantis, you resented, the rules and the strictness. And the reason why you resented it was because you had all those lifetimes where you were cavorting with the Orions, and you were a bad boy, So.
Oh, okay.
So part of your contract to come to Earth was it was kind of like you had to do retribution for all the. And it was something I think you chose as a soul, that you wanted to make retribution for all the bad stuff you were doing before. So so you came here to Earth, and you chose these really strict parents, but you rebelled against them, So I think the contract in this life.
That's not something I would do, actually.
Yeah, so I think the contract in this life was that, okay, I'm just going to be raised by these people that were my parents in Atlantis, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with the program because it's going to be good for me, So yeah.
Force myself to walk the path.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even though you knew that, okay, I don't agree with their religion, or I don't agree with everything, I think you saw the love and the.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because it sounded like they were really, great grandparents. They were.
They were amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. They gave me so many unique characteristics that's kind of been lost in today's society.
Right, right.
Southern culture and things that really actually have helped me a lot.
It probably helped you build character in this life, so.
1,000%.
Yeah. But, and I think, but in Atlantis, I think you kind of rebelled against it, and it, I think, created a downfall, in that lifetime. So again, I think in this lifetime, you're trying to repair damage to relationships, okay? And not that the relationship was ever damaged, it just wasn't consummated. And I think, but a lot of this, I think, was caused by you because you had this fear of, if I get close to somebody, I'm going to lose them. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have no doubt in that one bit.
Yeah. So I think you're doing a really great job of integrating your dark aspects and your light aspects of yourself, and your masculine and feminine, aspects of yourself as well. So I think, part of your, I guess, soul mission, at least for yourself, was to really integrate these lost pieces of yourself. And do it successfully. You're honoring yourself and you're honoring other people. Okay. So this is kind of an apex life for you. So you're going to be, because you're doing such a good job integrating aspects of yourself, you're going to have a huge impact on other people. Okay.
That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah.
That really makes me very happy.
I think you're here on a very big mission. Partially, you're here to represent the divine masculine at its most positive, aspect. But even beyond that, I think you came here, I think, sincere desire to be of service to others, to make a positive impact on people's lives. And
Yeah.
I think you're going to do that through your art, the work that you're doing. I don't know what kind of movies that you create, but
Everything that we have and everything that pulls at me is definitely inspirational. Not doesn't really matter what genre.
oh,
I
okay,
really I
gotcha.
won't really touch anything that doesn't. It's funny you mentioned that. I literally was in a meeting before I came on this trip with one of our investors.
Yeah.
Now coming in, and we were just like, look, it's not just about the money. Like we're
Mhm.
about legacy, we're about the right meanings, the right messages, and all
Mhm.
this. I'm just churning it out and flipping it to Netflix like everybody else is doing.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
we're it's very much written all over our beings.
So I think probably what you came here to do, because I think the movie industry has been corrupted. I
Oh, it
think,
is.
yeah. So I think what you came here to do, not try, you're going to do it.
It's interesting. The one thing that's interesting that you're saying that's going on right now, it's a very dark industry. I started out in it roughly off and on, swinging at it, falling apart, running, pushing another big boulder up a hill,
Right.
constantly. Started out in music,
Mhm.
on concert tours. But anyway, I say all that to say it's an extremely dark,
Mhm.
controlled industry because it has so much power over the mass.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, they don't call it programming for nothing.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, I mean they mean it on so many different levels. Okay,
I mean,
so you're here, I think, to make it more inspirational and positive.
yeah,
And even if it's like a sad story, if somebody gets something positive out of it,
right.
then you would have accomplished your mission. So I think you're here to, and you are truly a second wave volunteer. You're here to break down old systems and create new ones. Okay.
I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really with me. Yeah.
So you're here to shake up the old paradigm and get a new one in place. Okay. So
I like.
yeah, so you're here with a big mission, and I think as far as what I can see, you've done, I think, a wonderful job. I think working through your demons from the past. Okay, all the things that kind of tripped you up in the past. The dark lives. Where you were running around with Orions, and then the light lives, and the death of the sister, which I think translated into the death of your mom in this life, and then being raised by strict grandparents who actually really loved you a lot but just wanted to set
Oh,
some boundaries for you. And I do see the Atlantean life. That was a hard life for you. I think you learned some very hard lessons. And I think what happened in that life is you separated yourself from your family. So in this lifetime, you wanted to reintegrate the family. Okay. And eventually you're going to be reintegrating yourself back into the Pleiadian family. Okay. So that's going to be your future. Okay. So do you have any questions for me, or is this kind of in lines what you were looking for? Or?
oh, it's extremely enlightening. I mean, you're filling in a lot of gaps and also tying in a lot of patterns and
Oh,
even
good, good.
things
I'm
that
glad. I'm glad.
I like. Why did that happen? I think it's funny. I'll show you something interesting. I don't know if this means anything. I remember I got this tattoo as a rebelling.
Okay.
18. Look what it is. It's a
Oh, it's a
dragon.
dragon. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I get the sword of truth on my chest.
Uh huh. So you got the two
Tell
aspects
my
of
tattoo.
yourself.
And then conqueror of evil, and then truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
So
it's
yeah,
sweet.
you're like the billboard for for the integration of light and dark.
That's it. Yeah.
But
Both
it's
sides
interesting
light.
because in
Both sides dark.
Orion, a lot of the beings that you were I think collaborating with were draconians. Okay, so
I believe that they reptilian kind of looking, right?
yeah, reptilian. I mean, they were humanoid, but they had reptilian features. Yeah.
Totally see that now. Yeah, I've said flashbacks of a lot of people that I'd been around, so even in this life.
Oh yeah, no, no. I mean, probably where you live, there's probably all kinds of reptilian shapeshifters that that you have to work with. So
Everywhere.
everywhere,
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, Yeah, I don't know if I could be there. I would be seeing so many shapeshifters that I would just be like, oh my goodness.
I used to live right in the middle of it. I used to live in the Hollywood Hills for off
Mm,
and on for about 6 years, and I moved to Long Beach a couple of years ago,
mm-hmm.
and that's been a lot really helpful because I'm close to the water, love the water. You drive into it, go to the studio, and then leave. Not really
Mm-hmm.
immersed in that. Yeah, that looking back, once I was unplugged from that, I really started realizing just how toxic is a good way to put it. That energy is there. It
Oh,
makes me feel
absolutely. Yeah.
very
But I think you're here to change that though.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you're here to, I think, to turn it 180 degrees. I mean, it's just going to be.
The good thing is there's actually a lot of other people. Well, I shouldn't say there's a lot, but there's very significant leverage points and powerful people now that
Mm-hmm.
are in that we share the same goal.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
And it's not like you're going to
that's
do this by yourself. I think it would be
no.
very difficult for one person, but it's like a whole team of people. And I don't know, maybe on some higher level, you have contracts with those people too, even though you
Possibly.
may not personally know them, but, because you're all on the same mission. Because I do see, the movie industry is going to change a lot.
Oh, it
Because I've
is.
seen this trend where the movies are getting darker and darker, and the TV shows are getting very dark. It's
Sure.
just not very positive, and I think it's time that we needed to turn that back around. Where
Shifting. It's
yeah,
really shifting. There's some major movements right now, even in the major corporations. A lot of
yeah,
acquisitions, a lot of mergers. Disney's doing some really unique stuff at the moment that'll go public in a couple of months.
mm-hmm.
A lot of changes is a good way to put it. I don't know necessarily if they're going to be good yet, but they appear to be.
Well, we'll see. Well, I guess the future will tell.
I was really focused more on. I mean, soul mission. I mean, that makes total sense. I mean, it lines totally up. I mean, I love how I feel being involved in different causes. Charity
Mm-hmm.
work, even animal rescue, things like that. I'm involved with that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything in that realm makes me very, very happy. But it
Mm-hmm.
all ties into the choice of being in film or it's being in influencing something that can actually truly help others through me.
Mm-hmm.
That really sings to me so much.
And so
Um,
that's why I'm saying you're here to represent, I think the divine masculine at its most, I would say, positive aspect. Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Because
yet
there's
you
so
were
many.
born, you chose to be born as a Scorpio. So you do have, I think, very divine feminine aspects to your personality as well. Because I think you're a
Understood.
sensitive person. Obviously, you have
Very,
compassion and
very sensitive. I mean, if
yeah.
I'm being completely honest, I'm
Oh
very,
no, it's no, it's
yes,
cool. It's cool.
yes, very, very
Uh,
sensitive.
because you're not just a typical macho guy. I mean, you're.
That I think it's funny. It's almost like I kind of step in there. Like I think that there's definitely a line there with men that, especially masculine men, good-looking guys. They kind of
Yeah.
we're all very similar,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not, especially in LA. And they're not really open to a woman's feelings or really embracing what a woman is.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
you can't really do that. That's just not how it's supposed to be. It could even be a lot. I think the what happened to me as a child. Well, now
Mm-hmm.
that you put up those lines, I think I've always been able to not completely. I mean, we're the whole thing Venus and Mars, but
Right.
um, able to pretty much understand women for the most part, at least on the initial layers. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
I mean, not completely, of course, but
Right.
initial layers.
I think what makes you very interesting is that you have these multi level aspects of yourself. Okay, so it makes you, I think, just a more well integrated soul, which I think that was one of the things you really wanted to accomplish.
Sure.
Because I
Yeah.
think when after the death of your sister in that Pleiadian life, you became very fragmented. So I think you had spent
Makes
lifetimes trying to collect pieces of your soul. Okay,
makes
and
sense.
I think in this lifetime you're finally bringing, most of the pieces back together. I don't know about all of them, but definitely most of them.
I feel more, even just recently in the last few years, I feel more whole than I ever have, for sure.
Yeah, no, you're doing a very good job. I mean, I'm just connecting with your energy, and I'm just like, wow, he has very clear energy. I mean, for somebody that had such some dark, lifetimes.
Sure. talking about the hard lessons, I mean, I've had some very, very hard lessons to learn, but
Right.
I was that guy that kind of had to get hit with a sledgehammer and then I wake up. But I mean, you just don't go back after you get hit that hard.
And I think a lot of us have had, things that we had to work out in this life from past lives, where it was kind of like, okay, I had to go through some really hard times, but, it kind of helped, I think, balance the scales from, things when we got really off kilter and, other past lifetimes. You've had, I would say, several lifetimes here on Earth, but I kind of wanted to give like the overall picture of where you were from, and you were very, you wanted to know about your life mission. I think you are working your mission, or you're working towards it at least. I love that you are working a lot with other charitable organizations, like the Animal Rescue. And
I'm a big, anything animal related, animal activist. I'm big on the sex trafficking area.
Yeah.
That's something that very much needs to change.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is. And for disabled veterans, I work with Operation Confidence, sit on their board.
Very good.
Get them off. Yeah. So yeah, they shouldn't. God, they risk their lives for us. They should be getting treated like kings.
Oh, queens. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm a veteran myself, so I appreciate you saying that. So thank you.
For your service.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. No, I think you're really working your mission.
She was telling me that, and I've sensed it too. But on this trip, she was telling me that my energy has been somewhat draining a little bit because we're so connected. In the last few months.
Yeah.
And I've been, certain things that I didn't know if it was her necessarily that had been kind of cleared up on this trip.
Yeah.
I could tell I had her support with me.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Well, she's been connected with you for a while, and I think she was just waiting for you to get to that point where you felt more comfortable.
You're playing cards, going, "Is he going to hurry up? Is he going to hurry up? Is he going to come on?"
And I think she was just waiting for you, and she's a Pisces, so she's very, very patient, but she was also, I think, a little concerned because it was kind of like, okay, I know we have this connection, and I said, don't worry, it's going to happen, but it's going to have to be his choice, but it'll happen. And then she was like, okay, and but she hung in there. I mean, and you hung in there with her, so that just makes me, I just get excited when things happen the way they're supposed to, the way the contract was supposed to happen. So, you're doing phenomenal work, and I think you two are just here to kind of help support each other through your soul journey in this lifetime. And as we're going to be ascending, we're all going to be ascending in this lifetime. So there, the changes that you talk about, this is just the beginning, I would say, of massive societal changes that we're going to be seeing in the next few decades, hopefully not too far, too much further.
Golden Age?
Yeah, it's going to be a different society.
Yeah, that's exciting. I hope so. I really hope so.
I hope so too. I think we have to get to that point where we realize that we're all one, and that includes with animals and with other sentient beings, and that we have to become like a unity consciousness society. Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Oh, Debbie, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to connect with you today. I had a very good feeling about this readings. And
that's what she told me. That's what I was just going to say. Thank you for
Oh, yeah, no problem. It's been a real honor and delight to get to know you today. And I hope this won't be the last time. And you take care of yourself. Much love, happiness, and success for you on everything that you're doing.
Thank you, dear. You as well.